So good morning, right? I'm always adjusting this. I don't know why. Good morning. Wow. Wow. Well, are you going to turn? Like, nothing is working this morning. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Nothing is working. It's like crazy around here. It's Friday morning. Good morning. And what a week we've had. I'm just going to hit it right from the start. What a week we have had. Thank you so much for joining. And it's great to be here cuz for a minute there I wasn't even sure how it was going to work out. As you can tell, it's Friday. It's Fearless Friday, no filter. So no makeup on. It's summer and I've gotten to that part of the weather where I can't wear makeup because for whatever reason it just seems to hit my allergies. So my dermatologist says I probably should go total hypoallergenic, and I'm like, I thought everything was hypoallergenic. I've been wearing hypoallergenic stuff for years, for decades now. So are you saying there's a whole other level to go to? So it's summertime. And as you can tell, I'm wearing one of my summer dresses. Isn't it cold? Doesn't it feel good? How do you feel? See, you guys live in Florida and the Caribbean and Atlanta and the southern states. You have no idea what it is like to be here. Do you know right now the current temperature in Detroit, Michigan? You ready for this? Is 61. 61 for us is summer. I mean, at 49 degrees, at 40 degrees, we start wearing flip flops. So 61 degrees is certifiable summer. People are out wearing shorts and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And we're happy too. So it's going to be cloudy today and overcast. Sucks. But guess what? We're trending in the right direction, right? We're trending. So the lawnmowers are going, the weed walkers are going, and oh my God, it feels like it's just going to be a beautiful summer, right? So today I'm talking about the week in review and what a week it has been. I have a lot on my plate, so I'm just going to get it off. I'm just going to get it off, right? The abortion law passed in Alabama. So Alabama is not sweet home Alabama to women anymore. And then, as if 6 states have done it, so now Missouri has joined the list. And I'm like, are you all hating on women or something? What's going on? So that's just a no brainer. That's such a, where it's regressing instead of progressing, right? Uh, Taking life is not good though. I agree with you. I'm pro life. I believe that life begins at conception, but I have issues with when women are raped or in cases of incest. Here, I work with human trafficking survivors. So sexual violence is prevalent, right? A lot of the survivors we have had experience with are people who have experienced sexual violence. There is no, I can't put a, I can't cover it. I can't hide it. I can't pretend like it doesn't exist because it is the reality of people's lives. Do you see what I mean? Outside of the fact that I myself am a sexual assault survivor, it still is something that we have to contend with because the stories are overwhelming. When you hear what people what people experience, especially when they're young, we're talking about people who experience this when they're young. So you're talking about children. You can't get over it, right? You can't ignore. Thank you. I receive that. Thank you. On behalf of everybody, I receive that. My viewer is apologizing for sexual assault. Thank you. That's so compassionate. Because let's face it, I've had folks who were trafficked from they were 3 years old. I told you the story. We had one girl who was trafficked from Haiti, right? I've had people who were placed on the street when they were 8. I've had people who were handed over to pimps when they were 5 and 6 years old. So sexual violence is real. I've had people whose job it was just to continue having children so that we could provide labor, free labor, and free sexual services to men who desire to have children. We had one survivor who told her she was part of a trafficking ring where the people in that town who had access to sex workers and were interested only in children. One person did had sex with nobody over 5 years old. Are you listening to me? So sexual violence is prevalent. Now, to you and I, it's not because we don't live in those environments. And we don't know, more importantly, you don't know anyone, but you know me, right? You know me. So if you know me, 1 in 6, that's the statistic. 1 in 6, 1 in 4 women has been raped in her lifetime. And that's just reported. So you know me. So I'm that one in a group of four. So where two or more are gathered together, I'm that one. So you do know someone because you know me, right? But there are also people who don't come forward. So I can't ignore that. There are people who were raped by their fathers and for whom that is a reality. We've had public cases of that here in the city of Detroit. We had one pastor whose daughter came forward at 19 to say her father began raping her from she was 12. When her parents got divorced, and he told her she was now the woman of the house. So she was supposed to provide him with wifely favors. That was his excuse, right? Um, and this happens not just here in Detroit, it happens throughout the country. So when you look at that, it's hard for me to be hypocritical to say that sexual violence doesn't exist and that people won't wish not to have a child for your father, your uncle, your cousin. So for me, abortions in cases of incest and rape, that option should be on the table. I am not advocating for everyone to go out and have abortions. I am saying in cases of rape and in cases of incest, there should be that option. Women should still have that option, right? I don't believe that you should kill babies, because if you've ever seen the pictures, if you're curious, go Google it and see it. It's a horrific procedure, right? It makes you cry to think that you're killing someone. When they do 5-month abortions, I don't think anybody should do that unless the mother's life is at risk and it's a medically necessary procedure. Like she had an accident or something happened and the only way to save the mother's life is to do that. That's a different thing. But somebody who would find themselves at 5 months pregnant and say, oh no, I'm not going to have this child, and just walk into an abortion clinic, they literally have to kill the baby. Yeah, the doctor examines the baby, they hit the baby in the head. So they killed it, they hit the head first, and then they vacuum the baby out. So it's blood everywhere, right? I don't believe in that, but I believe that a woman should have the right to choose. And that's what it's all about. And I think essentially removing that right is saying that men who rape young girls. Now, I'm going to assume that the 25 men in the Alabama state legislature who did that are upstanding members of the community. So because now they're going to investigate them to see which one of them is committing rape on a child. I guarantee you that investigation is already happening. They're going to look very closely at them. So I want to know so I'm hoping that when it comes back, they're all clean and they were all saying, well, we were just doing this to preserve life because we're pro-life. Here's the thing with people like that. You can't just say, oh, I'm pro-life and shut the argument down as if it's just black and white. You see what I mean? It's not just black and white. It never is. It really never is just black and white. Life is not black and white. Life is shades of gray, pink, red. Look at you and I, for instance. We're not just nobody's DNA. If we were all to do a DNA scan, by the way, I'll never do that. I'm good. I know what my ethnicity is. I know who the people, my ancestors are. I'm good. I will never submit my DNA to a national database. I don't think anybody should. Because I think what they're doing is they're collecting all this data. You don't know what they're going to do with it in 10 years or 5 years. You have no idea. What if they come to you and tell you that in your blood or in your chemical composition exists a cure for cancer? What are you going to do? What if they come and tell you that you are not predisposed to having high blood pressure or diabetes or so on, and you're an anomaly? So they're going to submit you for tests, and they ask you kindly, and when you don't, suddenly you find yourself getting sick and you have to go. No, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's a reality of today's world. That's a reality. Those things can happen. The rate at which diseases have overtaken humanity today means that science is running out of options. So if I told you this was just going to be wild today, it's like Freaky Friday, Fearless Friday. We're just going to talk about everything. So look at it this way. So if they're running out of options, that means with all the research and development and all the money they've dedicated to it and all the pills, they're now saying that even in the chemical composition of making the pills, that's where cancer is formed. They're out of options. So now what's the next thing they're going to do? They're going to look in our genes to see why you as an individual with all the people who look like you, sound like you, don't have it, but you have it, but you don't. Then what's different about you? Then they come looking for you. Not me. Not me. Okay? Not me. I go to the doctor enough, and they tell me that a woman of my ethnicity, they've been telling me that since I was 37. They tell me that a woman of my ethnicity who has not had high blood pressure nor diabetes, I kid you not. What do you do? What do you eat? When I was pregnant, when I was 35, I was 36 years old when I was pregnant with my second child. Do you know they asked me, how is it that you don't have diabetes? I never had gestational diabetes nor, what's the other thing? Gestational hypertension. They said a woman of your ethnicity, and my baby was born at 10 pounds. I kid you not. My second child was born at 10 pounds, 2 ounces. She was 22 inches long. Almost killed me, but by the grace of God, I'm still here, right? The medical community in the town where they were, the people in the hospital were like, oh my God, something is wrong with you. How is it that the woman of your ethnicity does not have you have a predisposition to having these diseases? Do you see what I'm saying? So as I got older, the more my doctor asked. So now I go to the doctor. If I gain 5 pounds, she's like, oh my God, you're freaking out. And I'm like, my boobs get heavier, my bones are solid. Of course I'm going to weigh more. I don't have fat, but I'm human. I'm walking around with human skin, right? Do you see where I'm coming from? So now you really think I'm going to submit my DNA to a national database? Mitchell Pogue, thank you. Hi, right? Good morning to you too. Nice to have you on. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm so excited to talk to you guys in the mornings because let me just take a breath. But do you see? So I'll never, ever submit my DNA to a national database. I am so happy they have already told me who my ancestors are. I know where they come from. I can go look them up. I know what their last names are. So I can go to the various countries where they come from. And I am good. Because in a few years, you're going to find out. If you really think that they are, I'm surprised you all don't think like that. Public policy. You ever heard some of the stuff? This is why I ask you all, what do you do in your spare time? Do you all just sit there and scroll through Facebook and look at entertainment news? Do you actually read? Do you guys go on websites and read stuff? Do you read the stuff that is found in the National Institutes of Health, for instance? Do you see that there is public policy? And do you see that there are policies that are specifically designed to interrupt and affect your life? They intersect at your life. Have you ever wondered where the data comes from? Have you ever wondered where do they get all, you just think it just floats through the air or they're sitting with a telescope and looking at us? No, baby. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're getting it from when we go do blood tests, from when you go do a test. And the doctor sits there and asks you questions and filling the forms in there, ticking off all the boxes. So when I go to the doctor and she's trying to tick all the boxes that I should fit in, she can't fit me in. I can't fit in none of them. I'm as fine as wine. And she's like, oh my God, you're too fertile. And I'm like, am I not supposed to be? Well, the childbearing. And I'm like, oh, well, stop right there. You know nothing about my genealogy. The women in my family do tend to carry on for some time. Do you see what I'm saying? So why am I going to submit that? Think about it, people. I am just saying, think about it. Think about it, right? And then, of course, you have situations where you have a family history. And they like to tell you have a family history. Like yesterday, I got a phone call asking me to pray for someone who is going in for breast cancer surgery this morning. So we're all going to agree in prayer that she's going to come out of this better. Amen. Amen. And I was talking to the person that said cancer in the Black community has become like a plague, right? And that in a group of 20 people, 9 people have had cancer. In a group of 20, 9 people have had cancer. That's high. And if you're talking about the persons whose cousins or aunties or uncles have had cancer, the number is higher, right? So your today's Dick Gregory, and I mean it's in a good way. Dick Gregory, I don't know the anomaly, what is the analogy to that? So anyway, so when you look at it, you're like, so he said to me, well, what do you think is the reason for that? And I said, well, access to healthcare, right? And perception. When you go into medical treatment facilities, the ways in which we are treated. So you go in, right? You're 40, 35, and you go in and you say, you know something, I have a headache every now and then. And they're like, well, it could just be, did you eat that morning? Do you drink water? Are you dehydrated? And it's ignored. You keep having the headache, so you keep taking Tylenol or acetaminophen or whatever. Then 5 years later, you're still having the same headache. By this time, you're like, oh my God, I can't take this anymore. Finally, your doctor is going to tell you that, oh, you have a brain tumor or you have an aneurysm. But 5 years ago, you started complaining about a simple thing like you were having repeated headaches. But instead of running a test or a CT scan 5 years prior to prevent it, they waited, and now you end up at this stage where you have it. These are some of the contributing factors. So it's not like people are just getting cancers more. Well, the exposure is an issue depending on where you live, right? Not having access to good healthcare, not having access to transportation, those things influence that, as well as poverty levels. You live in urban communities where you're exposed to more toxins in the environment. Can I just be honest with you? When it comes to that, a guy who is a neurologist told me about 4 years ago, he said, Harriet, by the grace of God, we all go. He said, we're all exposed to toxins in the environment. Because he says, you can say you live 20 miles away from the nearest urban center. He said, but there is a major freeway driving past, you still get it. And he says, if you work in an urban center, so you have to drive there, you're exposed to it every day. And I was like, he said, by the grace of God, we haven't gotten it. He said, there's nothing that is going to stop you from getting it. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. That's what he said. And he's a scientist. He said, and he also told me they have pills. They have pills that can cure cancer. Did y'all know that? They do, but they're horribly expensive. They're like $2,000 per pill. So when you see these miraculous cases that they present on TV about someone going through cancer and through treatment and blah, 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 they make it. Nod your head. Just really? How much did they pay for the treatment? So there is this pill for breast cancer, for instance, that costs $2,000 per treatment. And how the pill works is it minimizes nausea and vomiting, because that comes as part of the chemotherapy treatment. And it minimizes hair loss. But it's $2,000 per pill, and you need a 30-day supply. So how much is that? And guess what? Insurance doesn't cover it. You know why insurance doesn't cover it? They want you dead, because then the medical system makes money to treat you. So it brings me to talk about chemotherapy then. Chemotherapy is liquid radiation. You know what? If you're healthy and I am healthy, if somebody wants to poison you, the quickest way to do it is to drop a little chemotherapy in your glass of drink. You drink that stuff, within 24 hours, your major organs shut down. You experience hair loss and nausea and vomiting. Sounds like what cancer patients experience, doesn't it? Absolutely. But chemotherapy is liquid radiation that is applied en masse across the board as a treatment of cancer. So somebody going through cancer, don't take chemo. It will kill them. Even if they live, because their bodies are so strong that they will live within 3 years, the effect that it will leave, the residual effect that it will leave will still damage. But hey, people like me, they're going to say what? They're going to shut me down. They're going to say, I don't know. And I'm not an expert because I didn't study it, but I read all the reports. So unless they're going to clean up the internet, whatever, right? Right. So I told you it was Fearless Friday. So it was just Freaky Friday. It's just like, okay, so now you know, right? So my thing is this: prevention. Prevention is just like with abortion. Prevention. Don't have sex without some form of contraceptive. That prevents abortion. That prevents us from getting abortion. But the stipulation has to be that what if the person is raped, or in cases of incest, right? So you don't want to get pregnant, don't have sex. If you're gonna have sex, then what? Use contraceptive. Use contraceptives, right? Similarly, with high blood pressure and diabetes, those are highly preventable. Heart disease, high blood pressure, and diabetes, those are the preventable things. The other stuff, cancer, you can't prevent because you don't know where it will come from, how it will get to you, blah, blah, blah. But high blood pressure, diabetes, those are preventable. Heart disease. So let's eat. Let's eat a little better, right? So avoid, especially as you get older, avoid all the high fat foods. Like, when we were growing up, they used to give us toast with butter. Do you know when I go out to eat, one of my joys is when they put the bread on the table with the butter. I have to look at that now and kiss it goodbye. I'm not enjoying that, right? So you can't eat some things you can't. They actually say real butter is better for you because it's better than margarine, because margarine does not melt in the sun. If you were to put margarine in the sun has no effect on it. So that means it clogs your arteries. That doesn't sound like fun. But one of the things I've learned is that our arteries being clogged happens over a lifetime. So I'm like, all this stuff I've always eaten, I've cheated and so on. So, right. So there I am guzzling water like crazy, as if that's going to stop anything. Live, live, right? Minimize eating red meat. Not because red meat is bad. We need the protein from it. But guess why? Because the cows and the goats and so on, and the sheep, guess what? The meat is tainted. It has it has antibiotics. The antibiotic and the chicken, the antibiotics fluff it up, right? And make it so those antibiotics are what is actually killing us off, because we have developed resistance to certain bacteria, right? That is causing all kinds of problems. So what you're gonna do? I don't know. Be like me. You're hungry and you stand before the fridge and you're like last night I was hungry and I stood before the fridge and I was breathing hard. And I look at my children who are younger than I am, and I'm like, I envy them. They can eat whatever they want. And I'm like, you have 20 years before you can worry about that stuff. And here I am standing before the fridge and I'm breathing hard. So I keep shredded cabbage in the fridge all the time. I'm hungry. And I ended up eating shredded cabbage. I was like, man. And I'm like, do you want to live to be 80? Do you want to live to see 90? How do you want to get there? You want to get there skating on a banana peel, or you want to walk into 90 like, I'm the boss. I'm the boss. I'm still the boss. Okay, I said, okay. So I ate my shredded cabbage, sipped some water, made myself some malted milk stuff. I said, okay. I went to bed. Not very happy, but not even content, but it is what it is. So what a week we've had. Then we learned that CBS News is shaking up their morning show. And they moved one of my favorite anchors, Biana Golodryga. Biana is a Russian, she's a success story, an immigration success story, much like I am, right? She is a Russian refugee who came to the States and who made it. So she made it to the big time. She's on national TV. She's worked at MSNBC for years. So CBS hired her. She was very popular, I thought. But then new management came into CBS. They thought there were too many anchors. So they shuffled. They did a shuffle around. Hopefully it works for them. Gayle King will still be anchoring. Gayle King, who did we've known Gayle King for years, but she crossed over recently when she became the interviewer who asked R. Kelly, Robert, while he was raging, right? So they're going to do that. And then we learned also that this week the administration, the current government, is going to release undocumented immigrants who were detained into specific cities around the country. And there's silence in the stratosphere, right? So we'll see how that works out. Then we learned that we're on the brink of war with Iran. And the rest of us are like, hold on. Why are we going to war with Iran? Aren't we at war in Iraq? Am I getting that mixed up? Are we going to have another problem? And we're like, what's going on? I'm telling you, this was the most incredible week. Then we had freaky weather. In fact, today begins more freaky weather. Certain parts of California is having snow, in the Sierra Nevadas. And then down here, it's coming across the country. So we're getting cooler. And places like the usual places, Texas, OK, Oklahoma and Kansas, TXOKKS. That's an acronym somewhere. TXOKKS. That's just Tornado Alley. They're going to have tornadoes, and you're like, whoa, okay. So that's just some freaky stuff that's been happening. But you know what freaked me yesterday was when I was watching Nancy Pelosi. She was giving an answer to the immigration situation. The administration released a statement saying that certain immigrants were being sent to certain communities because they have no merit. So Nancy Pelosi's answer was this. She said, so you're telling me that people who come into this country and because they don't have an engineering degree, as human beings, they have no merit. And I was like, take down. I was like, that's what you call a clapback. That was take down. I was like, whoa, wow. She did that. And then, of course, I'm telling you, this was the week. There were so many things happening this week that this was you. All week, you were like, what? And then there was this thing this morning. Did you see this one? That SAT administrations across the country are now going to include, ready for this, an adversity score. And I just went like, okay, America, make up your mind. Are we just going to reinvent feudalism or what? An adversity score is, get ready, wait for it, depending on the applicant's socioeconomic background. So your social and economic background in the neighborhood where you live, at the school where you live, it is given 15 points. You're asked 15 questions. And based on your answers to those 15 questions, colleges are taking that into consideration as a part of their admissions process. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure if that is in response to affirmative action across certain states being repealed, right? Or is that no disparaging against people because of their background? Are you following me? So we're kind of like regressing a little bit, going back, going way back. I'm not sure that is necessarily a good thing. I don't think so. Do you? It sounds like you're asking people where, it sounds like you're determining if you should be in college based on where we're going back. We're going back. It's not the right way to do this at all. Now, there are people who, I've never done that, who have paid people to coach their children through college. There's nothing wrong with that. There are people who have paid paid for their children to write essays, help them write an essay, which means that the person wrote the essay, right? Seriously, there are people who have paid for extramural classes for their children just so that they can be given an advantage. And those parents have always maintained that they do that so that their children can have an added advantage, because the field is so competitive that in every area that you can be different is what you do. And I say, okay, there's nothing really wrong with that. I mean, you have to look at it from the perspective that what makes you stand out. In fact, it's one of the things that I even say to my own children. What is it about you that makes you stand out from the pack? Because there's so many students. There are so many students who are good. There are so many students who are doing great and are doing well. What is it about you that makes you stand out? And if you don't stand out, well, how are they going to know you exist? In a sea of faces, they're looking at all the data. They're surrounded by a plethora of information on people that have more similarities than dissimilarities. Well, what makes you stand out? So in an effort to push their children over the edge, some people have gone way overboard, right? They paid people off. I think that's so disingenuous because you're going to lie and manufacture the facts. Nah. I just say no to all of that. You can't do that, right? Not cool. Because if the playing field is that all students should play on this field and you get in based on merit, simply based on the fact that you are qualified, you are talented, you're gifted, whether academically or athletically, then fine, right? But if it's going to be because I can afford or you can afford to pay, you can afford to pay for your child to get in above my child. I don't think that's fair. No, I think the playing field ought to be leveled. So my stand on education. So oh my God. So this week, my partner Elaine Flowers is who partners with me in the Exodus Foundation. So we were talking. We've been talking on and on for years about the Detroit public schools and why is it that some of the programs that we know of that exist are not readily available, are not made available to the public. So one of the programs that exists here in the state of Michigan, and I'm sure it exists in your state, is the Tuition Incentive Program, TIP. The tuition incentive program is available to students of a certain who have been, the primary criteria has to be that they were on Medicaid, government insurance, from the time they were 9 until they graduate high school. They need to have at least 24 months cumulatively of being on Medicaid. That grants them a discounted rate of admission to college. And there are certain colleges who participate in that program. Obviously, colleges who get state funds are the colleges that participate. So that would include Michigan, University of Michigan, Michigan State, Central, Eastern, Western Michigan universities, Northern Michigan University, and so on. So Elaine is doing a program tomorrow where the education committee of the NAACP of Grosse Pointe and Harper Woods, they're doing a presentation at a library about the tuition incentive program. And the program, here's the kicker. Elaine is Black, I'm Black. The program was brought to their attention by a white woman who lives in Grosse Pointe. And students, white students who perhaps live in some communities, and they're getting that information readily available. So what we found was that suburban schools push this information and all the information that is out there to help students get into colleges. But in Detroit public schools, they fought for Black students, for Black teachers, because only Black teachers can teach Black kids. This is not being presented as an option. So I called the school this morning. And the person who answered told me all the counselors are out on a field trip. And I could not talk to the principal. Why? Because the principal is not available. I said, surely you are wrong, because the principal is answerable to me because my tax dollars pays her salary. And my daughter is a student. So tell me why I can't talk to the principal. She says, well, you can't tell me how to do my job. I said, oh, okay, that's fine. I hung up and called the superintendent of Detroit Public Schools. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I want to know, first of all, why does the principal think she cannot talk to the public and you're not held accountable to the public, by the public. And secondly, why are you not talking about this program that is going to help margin? Here's the reason why. So I went to I was with someone yesterday. I wear braids, so I get my hair done. And while I was there, we were talking about our children. And she told me the story of a young girl, her daughter's school, who was 16. Her daughter brought this child home because the child is basically without any parental guidance. She's 16, she's a girl. Her father died, and her mother says she doesn't want to be a parent anymore. So the mother abandons the child. She disconnected her phone. She changed her address. The child can't find her. The system can't find her. So the child is alive and she's left on her own. So her mother's ex-husband's sister took her in, but rents her a room. So yeah, you can stay here, but you have to pay the bills. You know how people are. So the child is working at Popeyes in order to pay the rent. Well, the child was in the woman's home, my friend's home. And while she was there, she did observe some things about her decorum and behavior that became a concern. So she started asking questions. And in asking questions, she determined something is very wrong. So when she told me, I said, that child needs an intervention. And we're going to have, because the end result is she's going to get pregnant and she's going to discontinue her high school education, which is going to create another cycle of poverty. Do you see what I'm saying? But then I said, well, how many kids at that school are college ready? And she looked at me. She said, what are you talking about? I said, the fact that you say that answers my question. I said, that's the real problem. If children are not being given any hope, they already come from communities where they're severely marginalized. And I know many of you are probably saying, but that's not my problem. You know why it's our problem? Let me tell you why it's our problem. When you go to McDonald's and you go to the stores and so on, and you encounter individuals who give us bad service, sometimes that is a part of their story, not all the time. Secondly, just think about crime on a wide scale. Or you could be working with someone and you're at the hierarchy or the mid-hierarchy of the system, and there are people here and they can't make it any further because they never finished high school or they never went to college. That's why it's our problem. So it's a societal problem. And we have to become aware of it, because where you can provide, I'm not telling you to go out and start a thing where you do that. I'm just saying I'm creating awareness. We're creating awareness so that you know. So when you encounter folks, sometimes you might say they're lazy, or you might say they don't care. The real reasons behind why these things happen, because I'm guilty. I was one of those people who used to say the same thing. People are just lazy. They're not trying hard enough, until I found out the reasons why. So there are people, we're going to talk about that next week, parents who feel like their job at parenting is over at 16. Now, this is not the first case. In the last 3 or so months, I've come across at least 5 people whom I've heard a similar story from, where the minute they turn 16, their parental responsibilities just cease to happen. People feel like at 16, they should leave them. In one of these tragic stories, the mother had a son, and she told him at 16 that she put him out on the street. She told him he had to leave her house and go live on his own at 16. He ended up committing armed robbery and is now incarcerated. He's now 25. She did that to her son. She doesn't hold it responsible. She says he was the one who went, but you put him out at 16. What did you leave him to do? Why are people telling their children at 16 that they need to go live on their own? I have my daughter, she's 16. She's the most precious thing to me. Now, like you, we all have stuff, material possessions, but nothing is more important to me than the safety and well-being of my 2 children. Nothing. And I guess I'm going to be honest with you. Adversity is a teacher, right? Had I not been disadvantaged, I would never have known, because a similar thing happened to me when I was 16. At 16, my mother's then husband told her that she had no more responsibility to me. It effectively cut off the advancement of my education. The school system I was a part of in another country, in the country of Jamaica, we graduated high school earlier because we went to high school early. So there's no middle school. So you leave elementary school and you go straight to high school. So I was a bright kid. I went to high school at 11. I graduated at 16. My mother and I had discussed my future, and my future included education. And at a crucial point in my life, but for the grace of God, it could have been me, right? At a crucial point, I was 16 years old and they put me out too. They sent me to live with my aunt because she was going to live her life with her man, and she was pursuing her happiness. Now, you could look at it that she was an overwhelmed mom and she had been a single mom for a while and she was tired. I am an overwhelmed mom. I have been a single mom and I am tired. And maybe had it not happened to me, what if something had happened, like I'd gotten raped or gotten pregnant? I wouldn't be who I am today, right? So, and it's a question my mother never answered, by the way. When I did ask her, when I became an adult, it was as recent as 2016. When I asked her, why did she do that? It's a question. She denied it. She said her husband never said that, but she denied it. She could not face it because it was such a contributing factor to the dysfunction that took place. What you do is you set in motion a series of events that culminates in the child being disadvantaged. I'm just telling you the truth. So when you see women and you wonder, what the question is not, why are you lazy and why are you not trying? The question is, what happened to you? You see what I'm saying? Because frankly, I could have said that I've had a lifetime of trauma. Wouldn't you agree? It sounds like it, right? But for the grace of God, I emerged from it with a level of awareness that I've got to prevent this from happening to others. And if it does happen to others, find a relief and a safety net for others to fall into. It's why I set up the Exodus Foundation. Had I not become a victim of labor trafficking, I would have never known what it was like. I didn't even self-identify that when my ex-husband confiscated my identification documents, he was subjecting me and my child to being trafficked. But for the grace of God. Hello, do you see what I'm saying? So in a lot of cases, when I have learned not to judge a book by its cover, I have learned to take things in stride and ask the question instead, what happened to you? So when you see people going postal, and we all see it in all forms of life, in all arenas, and when you hear these stories, the better question to ask is, what happened to you? Not, why are you this way? Because then people become defensive. Why? What do you mean, why? Just say, what happened to you? You'd be surprised at what comes out. Like this young girl I'm telling you about, she's 16. Do you think she feels that the society cares about her? No, not when her mother abandoned her and said, I don't want to be a parent anymore, and left her to fend on her own. So she's looking for love and affirmation. Here comes Gorilla Pimp. What is he going to tell her? Baby, I love you. What is she going to do? Respond to that. So he's going to tell her to do whatever, and she's going to do it because she thinks that it would keep him loving her. So when you see women leaving their kids with their boyfriends, there's always a backstory. So the backstory is based on the back question, what happened to you? I'm not saying you're going to pick up the phone and dial 1-800 what happened to someone, but when you see it, it will cause you to have a level of reflection and awareness that heretofore you probably would not have had it not. And I'm not alone, by the way. There are lots of people like me. Maybe some people don't talk about it. Some people hide it under layers of achievement and success. and they present, in order for them to cope with the trauma, they hide it and hide it because confronting it is a big deal. I am just one of those persons who have been blessed with a gift. I just confront it, face it, and deal with it. So what? It happened. What am I going to do about it? Right? Some people don't want to confront it because they can't. The emotional responses and how to deal with it would cause such a breakdown in their current life, they might as well not deal with it at all. But it later manifests in physical illnesses. Unresolved emotional conflicts manifest as physical illnesses later. There's a direct correlation to that. This is why they tell us to be stress free. This is why they tell us don't eat certain foods, don't act certain way, avoid stress, because there is a direct correlation between stresses and what happens inside our bodies chemically. So I have learned to unpack unpack my issues, unpack the guilt, the shame, the condemnation. I've learned to unpack it. The one thing that I never felt was a lack of worthiness. I never felt that I was unworthy. I never felt like I didn't belong. It might have been subliminally messaged or communicated. It wasn't something I absorbed. I didn't see it that way. I've always had a strong sense of self and a strong sense that I can overcome anything because I can think it through. But there are not many people who are gifted like that. Do you see what I mean? And so we've got to help others. I have found that just like I became wholly involved, and I had to ask myself the question, if there is a program that can help a large group of people, especially people who traditionally are being marginalized and who don't know the right questions to ask and who don't know how to access resources, but the resources available, why is it not being made available? So for me, when I see teachers demonstrating about wanting more pay, I'm like, that's not something I support. Why? You got a college degree to teach, right? And you got a teacher certificate. So you are being paid based on what your degree is, like the rest of us. Isn't that true? Right? So you're an engineer, you get paid what an engineer gets, right? You're a lawyer, you get paid what a lawyer gets. So why do you think being a teacher makes you different? The teachers who raised us and who taught this generation, they're gone. Those teachers were empathetic and those teachers cared. These teachers today, you know what they're concerned about? They're concerned about getting enough money to go buy an E-Class and a C-Class Benz, Mercedes. That's what they're concerned about. They don't care to impart or to find ways to encourage students and see a student going wrong and let me help the student, right? There are exceptions to the rule. Notice exceptions 1 and 2. But as a group, they want more money. And I'm like, what are you doing that is so exceptional that you think you should get paid more than somebody who has a similar 4-year degree? You have a degree in teaching. Somebody has a degree in human resources. You're getting paid just like they are based on your qualifications. What qualifies you? Do you see where I'm coming from? So, because when I look at minority students emerging from these institutions, from public institutions, I am alarmed that they are not better prepared for college. One of my interns about 3 or 4 years ago went to Southfield, was it Southfield Lathrop High School? And she was not, I was so shocked when she was not prepped for going to college. And the question I asked was, what happened to you? The guidance counselors did not tell her about the tuition incentive program, nor did they tell her about other programs that could help her to get into college. Her GPA was horrible. She said she had dropped the ball during her junior year of high school, but there was no guidance to why did you drop the ball? I said, have you ever talked to your counselor? Did they ever ask you any questions? No. That's what a guidance counselor does, right? I have no idea why Twitter just went out. Can you believe that? The app just closed. I have to apologize to people, right? I'm sorry. The app just closed, just went out. Twitter app, right? And so why did that happen? I don't know. She was never prepped. I'm sorry. The app just closed. The Twitter app just closed out. I don't know. I am so sorry. I don't know why. I'm using a reliable interface, right? But so she asked the question, and thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, right? And she said the information is, because she's been around me. She says, but I never heard that. And she was in a public school system. They never told her or guided her. I said, but even with her GPA at 2.7, that was like 2.7. There are other colleges that you can get into. What they do is they put you on a program to bring your grade point average up to a certain level that is accepted by the college or university in question. She had never heard that. Consequently, she never made it to college. And I happened to intervene in her life at that point where she had just graduated high school. And I was like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take you down to the community college. I literally drove her to the community college myself, sat in my car. I waited for her to go in there and filled the forms out and came back out. I kid you not. And then she had other issues. The other issue was her mother never filed taxes, so she couldn't get FAFSA. So I went to the mother. And I said, why did you never file taxes? And she said, well, she was on disability. I said, that does not preclude you. They're never going to do anything about it. Just file the blood. I even offered to pay the filing fee so she could file taxes so that child, my intern could get into college, and her younger brother. I kid you not. But the point I'm making is, had these things not happened to me, I would have never been aware that some of these things happen. I would have never known. Do you see what I mean? Because we sit in our homes, behind our gated communities, and we say, well, life is good. I'm secure. I don't want to be a part of the general community. I just go to work, I go shopping, and I'm done. Nowadays, I have online shopping. Everything gets shipped to me. And we shut the rest of it out. But I am saying for a group of us, you and you and you're included, this is our reality, right? This is what we are called to do. Yes, you're called to do it because I can't do this by myself. You have to help me. There are too many people out here who need help. That my intern I'm telling you about, she's on Facebook, right? I can't say her name without getting her permission, right? You wouldn't know what I did for that year. I became a person to them. And I recognize that we can't help everyone. And that is so, because even Jesus said the poor will always be among us. And the word for poor there doesn't necessarily mean economics. It means the poor in spirit as well. So there are people who, by way of their thinking, will never change their perspective or change their way of thinking so that they can join mainstream, so they can become a part of the culture. Some people will never do that. I recognize that. But what I am saying is, let's put the opportunity in front of them so that when they don't make it, they can't point a finger and say the reason you end up sitting in jail is because no one ever talked to you or no one ever did it. For instance, I don't have to do what I do. I don't have to do this because I'm not getting paid for it. And my time is valuable, right? My time has money attached to it. This is how, like you, I have bills to pay. I have children in school. And you like my hair, right? Mitchell Poe, right? I'm holding you to that, right? And then you impact anybody. Don't discount that. You're an influencer, right? You can affect people and impact people. It could be that even in your group at work, the people whom you talk to, they might know someone who knows someone. Sharing the information helps. It could be when you go to your fitness club and you start talking. There might be someone there who knows someone. You'd be amazed how it happens. And as people, especially those of us who run the color spectrum, we need to learn how to help one another. We don't do that often. I'm amazed at white folks who they don't even care where you come from. They will just, you start talking and they just say, oh, okay, I know somebody who does that. And they will just help one another, help one another. They'll just say, you know what, my sister's friend has a nephew who works at the Attorney General's office. Let me make a phone call and see what I can do. We as Black people, crabs in a barrel, we don't try to help one another. It's 400 years after. We're no longer in a barrel. The barrel is done. We don't have to, it's a mentality. We don't have to act like that. We got to help one another. I could sit, because I have the information about tuition incentive programs and all those kinds of vehicles that can help children get into college. I could sit on my high horse all day and sit here and pontificate and postulate. And I can't do that because I know what it's like to be disadvantaged. That 16-year-old girl I heard of yesterday, that could have happened to me. That could have been me. I didn't have anywhere to go when I was 16, right? Because the people who were supposed to care for me thought I was an adult and left me, literally pulled the rug out from under my feet for me to survive and left me to figure it out at 16. Think about that. So not good, not good, not good. So I had to invent and I had to pray and believe God for a turnaround in my situation. And I had to listen, right? So I'm asking you today, think on these things. Think on the people we encounter, whose lives we could intersect. I wrote a post this morning on my Facebook page about a story I read on someone else's page. And he encountered a homeless person and made an assumption about the person. Then it occurred to him that the best person to answer this question would be him. So he asked the homeless man, why wouldn't you take food from me? And the homeless man said, because I have nowhere to put it. I have 3 sandwiches already. If I take another sandwich, it's going to go to waste. And why take it if it's going to go to waste? Had he not asked the homeless man, he would have walked away thinking he's not homeless, he doesn't need help. Had I not been questioned, had I not been disadvantaged, I would have walked away and I would have stayed on my high horse and postulate and pontificate all day and not seen why things happen, right? But now I know. A Lifetime movie about my life. Michelle, you're too kind, right? But this is the stories of life that impact all of us. So I ask you today, help me to help others. Go to the ExodusFoundation.com and help me to help those. They come and they talk and somebody has to listen. And I've been doing this for 2.5 years out of my pocket. And I'm not rich. But somebody has to listen to these stories. These folks need help. There are currently 5 young women right now who are at risk. And it's all because their mothers dropped them. It's all because the parents, and then I asked the question, well, what happened to your mother? The mother had some traumatic life experience herself that prevents her, a lifetime of trauma, that prevents her from listening to her own children. So now she is overwhelmed and completely unable to make any more decisions because she never dealt with the trauma that impacted her. You feel the burden? Did you feel it? You feel the burden? Help me. Yeah, I go to bed at nights. Sometimes I sleep, sometimes I don't. I have to force myself to sleep because I think about all the people who live under bridges. And I think about the girls who have to sell their bodies so they can eat. Recently, another story came to me about a young boy who found himself in a situation like that, right? And I had to write this grant. I was telling you about this grant I was writing, and I had to talk about in the grant how As a society, we take advantage of people and have sex with people, get our pleasure, and then walk away from them and go back to our homes and our lives, having used them and abandoned them. So help me. It's Friday, so let's do this. I want you to have a great weekend, but before you go, let's do this. Ready? You know what we're going to do? We're going to breathe. It's been a heavy week. The burden is, it's, if you feel it, it's a burden that's dropping on you, because we have to help those who need help. We got to help the people who need help. I don't care if you only give 50 cents. I don't care if all you give is $1. I don't care if that's all you have. I'll take it. Every dollar that you give helps me to provide the services to people who need help. As you can tell, there are plenty. And they could have been me. I was the one at 16 whom they put out. I had to figure it out by the grace of God. I didn't get pregnant. I didn't get an STD. I wasn't trafficked. So here I am today. And if that had been my story, would you have rejected me? Would you not have listened to me? So I ask you, go to the ExodusFoundation.com. Right on the homepage, you're going to buy your latte today. You're going to sit down and enjoy your lunch. You're going to make a difference. You're going to go out and have fun. Help me to help others, because sometimes I just go to the store just to look. Because every time that I have to do it, I think about what I could do with something else. Do you understand what I'm saying? I have taken these girls to Walmart myself and said, okay, I love the store, Five Below. I've taken them to Five Below and said, look, you have $20. Go knock yourself out. You have $20. You have $20. That's what I have today. Help me to help them. We're bringing hope to the hopeless and a voice to the voiceless, to people who can't talk. There are people right now who are so caught up with where they're going to sleep tonight, where they're going to live tonight. You think going to college is on their list of priorities? No, because they have so much in front of them. They need somebody else to help them think it through. There are kids who don't have a computer. One of the things, I'm working with someone who is helping me provide computers to a school, laptops. Why? Because my children have laptops and they have access to the internet, so they can do homework and so they can continue to do what they do. But then I hear of children who don't have laptops, who don't have the internet. And I'm like, there's a gap there. We can help. So I can't help everybody, but those who come before me, help me to help them. I got to help. I can't walk away. Because walking away from them is what? That's walking away from the 16-year-old girl that I was. So help me to help them. I can't help but think what my life would have been like that young lady I heard about yesterday. And the person who told me has no idea of the impact that it had on me, because it could have been me. So go to my website, ExodusFoundation.com. You have no idea what it's like to work with people who have been hurt by others, by people whom they trusted, by people whom they loved and who proclaimed to have loved them. So go to my website, theexodusfoundation.com, and make a donation today. Give up your lunch, Michelle. Give up your lunch. So before we go, come on, before we go, you ready? You know what we're going to do? We're going to breathe through this. You ready? Ready? We count down from 3. And on the count, we're going to inhale. 3, 2, 1. Ready? 3, 2, 1. And you're going to say these words. I can help. And you're going to say to me, Harriet, I am here. That's what Exodus is. It's providing an Exodus. from these things that afflict others. Have a good weekend, everybody. Be blessed. See you Monday. Are you going to come back? See you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Pray for us. We're traveling this weekend. My daughter graduates. So we're going to try to do that. Pray for us. Thank you so much, everybody. Be blessed. Thank you. The ExodusFoundation.com. Mitchell Pogue, I'm looking for your name. Inbox me. Thanks so much, everybody. You guys make my day. Do you know that? You make my day. You make my day. I am so grateful. Thank you so much. Okay, so I found some information, right? I called the Detroit Public Schools Superintendent's office to find out why the tuition incentive program is not readily available to high school guidance counselors. And they gave me some numbers to call the supervisor over the program. And she says if they don't answer, if they don't give us a good response back, then we need to call back the superintendent's office. No, I haven't called there yet. So I wanted to know if you wanted the information because I kind of want to light a fire under them because what's happening. Mm-hmm. And was able, and was brought to them. Disturbed about it. That's why she, could understand. What's the big deal? System, high school, that's what they should be doing. Right. Information out like that. Right. Why is it not being? It's not like it's. I mean, it's not like it's going. It impacts them in any way. It's for the kids. Right. 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 And that is exactly the problem. So I'm going to email you right now and give you the information because I want to light a fire. I want you to call as well, especially in your capacity as dealing with the NAACP and through their education committee, because this is a much bigger issue than is immediately apparent. Yesterday. University of Michigan offers that civil rights youth academy. They weren't charging the school district a dime. The Southern Poverty Law Center down in Mississippi, Alabama, they were covering all the costs of it. Mm-hmm. They called the school system a dime. Mm-hmm. But we had no white school district, Farmington Hills, no white district. Mm-hmm. Picked up on it immediately. Mm-hmm. Yet, Detroit Public Schools did not. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Teach the principles of Martin Luther King's era, mm-hmm. And have them modernize those principles to things that are affecting kids now, Right. Modernize. Right. Yeah. And so it's not like, and it's kids, but another thing, like I said, I didn't like is that those kids that are active with the movement and trying to do things, they were giving full scholarships to the University of Michigan. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why would you turn that? Why would that be a turn? Right. So anyway, but think of I need you to talk. I need you to talk to. I'm going to email you the information. I need you to call the superintendent's office. I need you to do this through the NAACP because, yeah, Elaine, you know what has been happening to me? My daughter, Lisa, keeps bringing these lost children to me. They're young, Elaine. One of them, listen to this, Elaine, she's 16. Her father died. Her mother decides she doesn't want to be a parent anymore. She disconnected her phone and disappeared from the child's life. The mother's ex husband's sister took the child in and told her she has to work to pay for her to live. So the child was taken in by Lisa's friend who took her home to her mother. Her mother has 10 children already. So the mother said, I don't have any space for her to be. But then the mother noticed the child kept going up to the bathroom within an hour. Turns out the child has an STD. She's 16 years old. She could get pregnant. 16. There's the people around her didn't want to call child protective services because they would put her in the foster care system and so on that they felt would have been worse. But sometimes you have to look at it like, which one is worse? Is it worse living out here having sex with random people because you know she's going to be trafficked eventually or end up in the system because she's very aggressive, they say. And I said, yes, because she feels defensive because nobody loves her. So she feels vulnerable and so she has to protect herself. So, Elaine, you see what I'm talking about? Elaine, it's like... Yeah, I just reached out to them to tell them there are some resources that we have access to that can help her to prevent these kinds of things from happening. But Elaine, there's so many of them, they have no hope because the teachers are more interested in earning enough money so they can live in Farmington Hills and buy a Mercedes C-Class Benz than they are in educating the children and telling the children what to do. So I need your help, Elaine. I'm going to send you the numbers. I want you to call and light fire, have the NAACP back you up. You do enough fire by yourself. Your firepower is even worse. But okay, I'm going to send it to you right now. Okay, all right. Mm, mm.
The person at extension 31951 is not available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Good morning. This message is for Miss Rebecca Luna. My first name is Harriet, Harriet. My last name is Cammock, Cammock. I'm calling with a customer service issue regarding the principal of Renaissance High School. I called this morning with a concern that the tuition incentive program was not being offered at the school through the guidance counseling department. I asked to speak with the principal, and I was told that the guidance counselors are all out on a field trip. Lovely. Yeah, no students needed guidance counseling today, I imagine. But more importantly, was that the principal was not available to speak to me. Now, I expect the principal of a high school to be a busy person, so I wanted to leave a message to give her time to investigate my complaint to get back to me. The person who answered the phone said she's the principal's assistant and would not transfer my call to the principal's office, would not take a message, nor would she allow me to leave a voicemail. I have issues with that. My daughter is an 11th grader at Renaissance High School, and I'm a little bit concerned that the principal of the school that my daughter attends does not think she's accountable to the public, to a member of the public, and to a parent whose child attends school during school hours. I'm really concerned about that. So I called the district's office and I spoke with the superintendent's assistant who directed me to your help. And they have told me that if I don't get a response back from you, I'm to call them back to make sure that the complaint is addressed. My phone number is 248-946-1075. Today happens to be the 17th of May, and it's a Friday. I expect a phone call back. Thank you so much. Pay that back, bitch, and deal with that shit. You're all over there playing shit. You will find out.
The call partner is not available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Good morning, Miss Carter. My name is Harriet Cammock. Let me spell that for you. Harriet. My last name is Cammock. My daughter is an 11th grader at Renaissance High School in Detroit. And I wanted to know why the tuition incentive program is not on the list of available options that are offered to students within at Renaissance High School graduating seniors. But more importantly, why is it not offered broadly to persons, to the school district? Yesterday, I was brought to my attention a number of students who attend schools within the district who are almost graduating or who are near graduation don't know about the tuition incentive program that is offered through the state of Michigan. Not the Detroit Promise, where they have to maintain a certain GPA, blah, 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 and then do 2 years of community college, which can translate to a 4-year degree. Not that. The tuition incentive program that is administered by the state. I'm a little bit concerned about that. So I called the director's office, the superintendent's office, and they gave me your name and contact information to speak with. My phone number is 248-946-1075. I've even contacted the NAACP to find out what's going on. They have an education chapter. As a matter of fact, this information was brought to me by them. That this information, they were concerned that this is not being discussed and being directed to the public. There are over 50,000 students in the district. And I want to know why we're not offering them hope, especially when there are safeguards within the system that can help them to help themselves. Thank you so much. Fuck you all. Think you went to college and think you passed over. So I don't even damn about these kids. So you can go get your money to buy a Benz and be done. You don't want me to start. Bro, bring it back. Bring it back. I'm here. Okay. No problem. You're a good father. And provider. Provider. And provider. I would like to keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Speech tomorrow. Tomorrow. Accept your order. Proven. And the living testimony. Testimony. Of all things are possible. Are possible. And that you can overcome. Rest it and live with hope. Congratulations. Congratulations. I'm proud to be called your son. I'm proud. P.S. I don't have enough money to give you. I don't have enough money yet to give you. Hang in there. It will come. That's awesome. Because it's done foods. Okay. I know you're busy this weekend. Maybe on your way home. Should see the other pigs. Love you so much. Oh, my pride and joy. I'm so glad you chose me. Oh, my Jesus. This. I don't have feelings number. But tell her I'm proud of her. I'm proud of her. I'm so happy. I'm so glad. She's now a college graduate. And I know she's going to do great things. Great things. To you, to mom, and to you, to sis. I love her. The sacrifice. I've done it all to your children, for your children, so they can have a better life. Better life. Your graduation. Achievement. Your results. can't do that anymore? Okay. The link. That's it. Oh, later. Um, 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 um. That should not read these. Autocorrect. Correct. Sucks. Sucks. Major. I don't know. And stuff there. This is, see this right here? Right here. But it's what the police said. No, that's the police. These folks were being, being forced into road. Being given drugs to make them addicted. fits human trafficking. Okay. Thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. It means a lot. That means a lot. A lot. Okay. I didn't know that. So that's what's going on. It's still going on. Oh, I have to let her read that. Monday. Okay, please help her get the money she needs to do. Oh, Jesus, please put it in your hands. Thank you. I have to pay that. I paid like 2 months of it. That's where my money went. So keep that on. I'm gonna call. Okay. Keep going to my money. It's okay. It's good. It's good. I need to put that line on. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of this lady who is a phenomenal world leader. Her bravery in tackling, tackling, gun control, and showing other world leaders that it can be done. It's unprecedented. I hope to invite her to Detroit, to speak and encourage politicians that yes, can happen and it saves lives. It's all to this fearless woman. On this Friday. Uh, how's that for 16? Put you in that position. Oh. Mm. Really? Hello? Hello?
Hi, my name is Renee. I'm with ADT Security Services.
Oh, you showing that it can be done, but I think she did it because you told her. You raised her to think it can be done. It's a standard. I can't say enough how glad I am. How glad I am. How glad it's about me. So grateful. Well, police department. Oh, severe actions towards eliminating Shout out. Shout out to everyone who brought help to the film. Wow. Mm. Wow. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. something similar happened to me. Similar happened with my oldest daughter. That's the same as the same as her tone. Her tone keeps pushing me, keeps pushing me. I'd say. Mm-hmm. So this. She's over there. What I done. What I done. This morning. Nice to know. Nice to know they prosecuted. You have a balance. You have a balance. Caught me at. Solicitation. Solicitation. It's not about sex. People forced into sexual slavery, giving them drugs to make them addicted. It's not. Wow, is that true? Wow, it's awesome. It's awesome. Oh, mm. Mm. Wow, that gives me chills too. I thought this would encourage you today. Are you really? I think so.